One thing that I've never really had much success with is trying to match the sun. It's never quite felt right to me. Knowing that we were in Arrakis, we had a bit of a hunch that if we joined enough vortexes together, we were able to kind of create something that was equivalent to a soft sun, or even more powerful than a soft sun. We put 64 Vortex 8s together, which we called the Vortex 512, because it had 512 pixels. And used the Korean source LNX system, created a monster of a light, which was game-changing for us.
My name is Eric Koritz. I'm a cinematographer. I'm most known for Ozark, Special Ops Lioness, and soon-to-be upcoming show Ransom Canyon on Netflix. That's that. As a cinematographer, to me, light is everything. Sculpting light to me is how I tell a story. Profoto as a brand is known for their quality of light. To me, it's exciting to be able to bring that into the cinema world. Using the L1600D on set makes my job easier and faster. Without a ballast, you can rig it in ways that other lights can't be rigged. What delicate work. It's much more versatile than a 1.8K HMI. It's small, you can plug it into a wall, and it's more powerful and more energy efficient. They have over 50 modifiers, but there's also a Bowens mount, so you can do an infinite amount of third-party modifiers. I feel like this light will change the way we work. What I love most about the L1600D is the power of the light, the quality of the light, which is beautiful. And then when you couple that with their cinema ecosystem of modifiers that you can make it an incredibly versatile light, it really brings out the best in an LED light.
I think we're up. Hey guys. First of all, can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Is that all good? All right. Well, it's great to be here. I'm genuinely excited. My name is Gavan Gravesen. I'm the guy in the middle there. And the idea for this panel came up only, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago. We wanted to talk, because we do that generally. I run a company called Radical about virtual cinematography, previs, and a few things like that. But when BSC said yes to the idea, we thought a little bit about how can we make this as exciting and as informative, and not just a shameless plug for Radical as possible. And so we looked around for some people that would join me on the panel, and we found 2 amazing ones, I think. First of all, Paul, Arion, right here, and then Haider, Zafar. I will introduce them both very quickly now, and then I'll talk you through what we're going to hopefully do today together. Do know this, there will be 3 live demos, meaning almost nothing can go wrong today, right? It's going to be a miracle if we pull it off. We have not rehearsed this, so this is going to be a lot of fun. Let me introduce Paul first. Paul is both a director of photography and a digital artist. He has over 25 years of experience in visual effects, shaping films for Ridley Scott. Has worked with Christopher Nolan, Denis Villeneuve, Jon Favreau, and quite a few others. His IMDb is quite the show. And his teams have contributed to 5 VFX Oscars, Oscar wins over the last decade alone. Paul has also spent more than 8 years at MPC and more than 6 years at DNEG, mostly focusing on layout. And he now runs his own shop, Control Chaos, controlchaos.com, I think, right?
Control-chaos.
Where he and his team focus on previs, post-vis, TechVis, and cutting-edge motion capture. Welcome, Paul. And then we have Haider over there. Now, Haider is both a filmmaker and a visualization artist. His background is originally in architectural visualization, which is actually pretty common, or it's not the only, I mean, it's not entirely unique, should we put it that way, in our space. By now, he's been involved in more than 20 indie features, among others at Halon Entertainment and films like Argyle, Atlas, Cocaine Bear, and John Wick 4. And he also recently directed his own rom-com. Is that accurate? Okay, called Before Nika.
It is indeed.
It's on tour in the UK right now, so if you have time to see it, I hope you will. Okay, so let's go straight into it. Now, before I start presentations like this, I usually like to ask people in the room what their background is. Now, in this particular case, I think that I have a hunch, but would you mind if I just have a quick show of hand, who here would describe themselves as a cinematographer, just like that's what they do? Okay, thank you so much. Who here has any background whatsoever, meaning working on a somewhat consistent basis in 3D, any 3D software? So that's a much smaller number of hands. Is that fair? Okay, great. What often happens in presentations like this, that we sort of take, we get at it from the standpoint of a 3D developer or somebody who has a background in 3D. What's great about Paul and Haider is that they're both actually filmmakers, and they've made peace with 3D. Is that fair to say? Okay, so usually I also ask maybe somewhat younger, less experienced people than you, what their experience is or what they think of 3D. The younger generation, often those sort of up to like 25 or 30, will say that they're very excited about it. They probably feel quite at home. But I will just take the liberty of speaking for some of you when I say that there's a love-hate relationship between conventional filmmaking, live-action filmmaking, and 3D. And we want to acknowledge that, and hopefully today we can show you a spectrum of different outcomes, not just one, not just radical, not just Unreal Engine, and not just, and also Blender. And hopefully that gives you a good sense of what's out there. We're going to make it very short, punchy, entertaining. There will be time for questions at the end. So let's get at it. What can go wrong? Now, also, usually when we talk to younger and less experienced crowds, we talk about the benefits of previs. I'm not going to spend that much time on it. I will simply say that we typically think of it as having sort of two buckets. One bucket is creative benefits, and the other is sort of resources, risk, cost, and so on and so forth. I think that everybody here is so familiar with the process of or pre-production, previs, and everything that comes into it, that I'm not going to spend much time on it. I'll spare you that. But I will say this, it sets me up for the question, why would virtual cinematography, meaning 3D workflows, ever be relevant to a conventional live-action filmmaker? And I think the answer that we certainly now, that sort of guides most of our work, is that simply that during pre-prod, during pre-visualization, almost everyone, all the key creatives, think like a cinematographer. And that's what we're trying to honor. We'll first ask Haider to come up. So that's going to be a sort of quick sort of transitions. And Haider, I would actually ask you to come up now, so it's in the interest of time. I think you're already set up. We'll then switch to Paul. I think Haider is about up to 5 minutes or so. Paul has a bit more time in Unreal Engine because Paul sort of signed on first, and Haider, we only found him a week ago. And then I'm going to talk about Radical, and then we'll talk a little bit about, I have a few prepared questions for Paul and Haider about how you might want to think about decision-making process. And then finally, if there's time and interest, there certainly, please do ask questions. So that's how we set it up. I hope that makes sense. You guys back there, I think you can now switch over to Haider. Haider, are you ready?
I think so.
You think so? That's the first live demo.
I'll give it a go.
Let's hope it goes well.
All right, so before I start showing you anything...
You may want to speak up, I think, or...
Can you hear me, or is it... Yeah. Before I start demonstrating, I just wanted to quickly ask, are there any production designers, art department people here at all?
That's a great question, actually.
2, 3.
That's not a lot. That's
Fair enough.
fewer than we thought. Yeah.
What I wanted to show was the collaboration between directors, cinematographers, set designers, art department, production design. So here we go. It's going to be laggy because you know how the internet is. So what I've done is I've got Blender open here, and I've connected the iPhone to an app called VirtuCam, and hopefully you will see in somewhat semi-live a staging of 2 people. It's a construction worker and a therapist in Bangkok, and they're having a little chat. So what you can do is have a little look around this tiny little set that's been built, and the idea of it is to show all the creative collaborators involved how much of the set you may need to build, where you could hide lights potentially if the ceiling's not seen, and then outside the window where you want your sunlight to come from. So after you've got so just for your reference, the camera that I've set up is a Blackmagic Ursa, and it has a 14mm lens on it at the moment. I've only done this because this is the set of lenses that I use or I have, and then in a moment I'm going to show you, in a moment I'm going to show you the 135 as well, sort of like, and anything in between there, you can see the range. So I'm going to walk around now. You won't be able to hear me, so I'll just do a quick demonstration walking and I'll come back. Cheeky over the shoulder, and then if you want, just give me a moment. Oopsie, it's gone a bit too far. Perhaps a 135, maybe too much. Come back to 50. I'll just type in. I'm gonna get 50 in there.
I don't think anybody can hear what he's saying, but I'm going to try and translate it.
Sorry.
You good? You're going to have to shout.
Yeah, roughly a 50 there. Little single. And then we'll go back. Let me see if the other over the shoulder works. I haven't done this before yet. Okay, I'm out of the set. Can't see what I'm doing here. There. And then you can get your other over the shoulder as well. And then just outside, if I walk out, just a wonderful LED volume maybe, or just a screen with backlit projection, whatever you want, you can have that outside. And then you can see there's nothing over here, it's just the rest of the, so much. Hello. Not sure why did
Nope.
I can't. Hello? There we go, much better. Should have had this before. Brilliant. Now I can make sense. So what I was saying is, yeah, if you look to the left, nothing there. Here's your little set. And the idea is to be able to just work with the director, production designers, and just start exploring very, very early on what kind of locations you want to work with or any set builds. You can also scan the real world, bring it into Blender. Blender's open source. I don't work for them, by the way, but I think they're great.
Technically, nobody does, I think.
Yeah, you can download on your laptop, Mac, Air, wherever you want to try it. It will work, and then you can get the app VirtuaCam and just give it a go yourself. I think that wraps me up.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Quick round of applause for Haider. So this is actually quite hard to do, and I don't know how many of you would have seen Blender in action. I actually hadn't seen Blender in action like this. Blender is not historically known. You may already want to go ahead, actually, Paul, if you wouldn't mind. Thanks. Blender is open source, as Haider says, and the people behind it are very 3D. Let me put it that way. They're not filmmakers, although they typically do love film. The thing that is unique about this is that Haider just showed you a real-time application, and Blender, I think even Blender enthusiasts will admit, is not made for real-time, right? That's not his key strength. So this is actually a big deal that he just pulled this off. It's the first time that I saw that. And the benefit for many of you will be that It's free. You can download it. There is a bit of a learning curve, and I guess we'll get into that later. Blender is not easy, but probably easier than the next thing. Paul, are you ready for that?
Yeah, probably should have the microphone as well, just in case.
That's a great idea. So Paul is up next, and Paul is going to talk about what I actually think most of you, most of us, I think most of the film industry will associate with previs, high-end visual effects, yeah, yes, take it away.
Hello. Yeah, this is Unreal Engine. It's been around for a while. It just got better and better with hardware, obviously, right? Everything is in real time. You can do amazing things of cinematography. You can pre-plan your film very accurate. It's the learning curve, obviously, it's a very complex software that can do so much. So the learning curve to know it is obviously years. Doing cinematography as in like the basics of putting in a camera, picking up a lens, film back, doing an edit, that is very fast, right? So there are hundreds of people working in parallel in the software. It's a high-end tool. It's amazing for, you can do cameras, lighting, rendering, well, everything, like a, depth of field, animate, right? Which is great. So I'm working in Unreal Engine 98% of the time. So, right, so I don't open another software is the key. Because, well, if you're from the industry, you know that, well, in Unreal Engine, you just drop in whatever you want, like geometry, like this character over there, right? So there are multiple ways creating this, but you can bring it from outside, right? And you just load them in, and then you can set up the camera all here, staying in Unreal. So because of time limitation, just obviously like 10 minutes for Unreal. So I set up a little bit of a scene, right? It's very similar to...
It's like a cooking show.
Yeah, so not to waste time, right? So literally it's a timeline, and I have 2, 4, 6, 7 shots that I created. I create 1 shot, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and you go create camera, set film back, and this is exactly live what is here. I've done this on purpose. See, she's overexposed, right? So just to show you faster a thing. Actually, a mouse.
Yeah.
But I can go a little bit.
There's
without.
no 3D without a mouse. Trackpads won't work.
Okay. Let's see, limited space.
I think you can use the other mic there, by the way. No, that one right there in front of you. I don't think you have to hold it. If you want to turn that back on, that mic here.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
In stereo. Okay, so you can actually see here that a camera exists. That's the component, right? The camera. It's a 50mm lens, and it's an aperture of 2. Right? I set up like a sun system here, which you don't shoot at f2 outside, just normally, without going with all kinds of filters and stuff. So right now, here you go, she's overexposed, so I can go on F11. Done. So everything is in real time. The camera is set up here, then you go, you know what, I want to go to a 72mm prime cook lens that I love. Right, so it's all in real time there. Then, right, so in the same time, the film back is set. This is like a 177. Just for the demo, I picked an Ari, and it's like a 177 crop, right? So you can set up the film back over here, right? You can put up, let's go 36 by 24. Right, you see the film back change, right? So now we are on a Sony Venice 2, for example. which is a film back. Then you go, this is full frame, right? This is a 1.5 aspect ratio. Then actually you want to see what you see, what's the crop, where is all this. You can just put like letterbox on and off, right? Then you can find your crop, like 2.39, for example. Then you can play a little bit with the transparency, so automatically you have a shot, right? And everything is in real time, right? And now we go, you know what? I'm gonna go on 50. And 50 it is, right? Then you have a timeline, the power. Actually, the power, one of the most powerful things of Unreal is that you can have all these shots in an editing system live, right? So it's like having 2, 4, 6, 7, I know, Maya files open, right? So, but they're all here, and you can actually shuffle around in the edit. So in a similar way, right, I've just set up 7 shots, right? We go from this one to this one, which you go, overexposed. And then we go here, when we go F16, for example. There's a little bit of more and more lag. And probably because it's hooked up to the monitor. There is no lag, usually it's just everything works fast. Actually, I'm going to do something else instead. Come on. Instead, I'm going to do something else for the demo, right? Because I'm going to bring the sun down, the lighting, so we don't have to go in every camera and change the f-stop, right? So over here, you can go to like 5,000 lux. And it will be darker. 500 lux. As you see, you have control of the lighting, you have control of the camera, you have control of f-stops, depth of field, focus pulling, everything. Like, the software gives you everything. Like, I don't know any better one to do pre-visualization. In a combination with Blender, actually, they are all integrated. So what we both showed works very well together. So right now we can see, I think that he's out of focus. So we're gonna pull focus if this goes. It must be because of the HDMI, so this is not lagging at all. Okay, if you're at home or it's just working with live demos, right? But I hope, well, it's 10 minutes of a very complex and unbelievable piece of software. What we are showing here is free. That is the beauty of it. You can go home, download this. You don't have to pay anything unless you make a gazillion, right? Which is great. Same Blender, all the same with life.
Sure.
So one of the very good things is I almost always say there is no excuse nowadays to do something really cool. Because all the technologies and so much stuff is free, you don't have to be an expert to just start thinking about your shots. A good thing is, even if you're home, right? You are home and you're not an expert in any of 3D, you actually can start the software, learn a little bit about something, and put some cameras in your project. If you're a writer, a DP, a director, I think it makes sense to basically, like here, it was, oh, this at home, this and this. You don't have to embarrass yourself by not knowing or knowing, right? It's about to think about the tools where all this technology is going better, faster, accurate.
Great.
right? We're done?
Well, that's great. Maybe just one question. We're going to ask more questions later when we sit down back here at the table. But one thing I will point out that, of course, Unreal Engine also has a fantastic VCAM solution. Which you didn't show right now. I guess it's just like...
No, I knew you guys are showing, but I mean, the software is...
Well, Haider did fantastically there. But obviously, Unreal does that too. In fact, Radical does it too. I think the reason we all do this is because certainly in our case, and I suspect that you hear the same stuff, anyone who works in previs and works with cinematographers and directors, they'll say that like sort of conventional live action cinematographers will often say that they need that physical sensation of an object that they can hold. And I think that's why there's so much focus on that.
Yes, I built
a
shoulder mount at home. Like I have like a proper shoulder mount, like because it is different than, I mean, I don't even like a phone. It doesn't have the weight and things. I DP'd a lot of live action things, right? So for me, it's like shoulder mount is my favorite. So I built one in real size at home, which hooks up into all this technology we show you. So actually you have the feeling. I have a 4K monitor on it, right? So it's amazing what it can do.
Great.
A last thing, focus pooling.
I think we're going to switch over now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Radical. Are you ready over there?
Focus pooling, and we're done. Thank you so much. I had the demo as well, but...
All right, guys, give me 30 seconds to switch over.
Yes.
Okay, hey guys. I'm actually going to ask you, sorry, just one sec, to switch over to this HDMI, which of course I need to plug in first. All right, I think we're ready. So I'm going to start out with this aggressive quote by Joe Marks. He's on our advisory board, and he's one of the people who helps us craft this solution that you're about to see. He's the former CTO of Weta. I think he knows a thing or two about very large budgets, and he joined us to find a way to make this what you've just seen maybe a bit more approachable for those people who don't want to climb up a learning curve that clearly is involved here. So we call our solution real-time collaborative previs for storytellers. The key is really to understand these two building blocks. Everything we do is in the browser and can be accessed by regular sort of consumer-grade devices. Think of it as Google Docs and for 3D, fused with Figma and maybe Canva for 3D, if that makes sense. Google Docs simply because it runs on any device and because it is real-time collaboration. And those two principles inform the way we develop everything. It has to be easy, it has to be collaborative, it has to be real-time. Matteo Ghiberti here is my co-founder. This is the guy on the far left. He's the former lead developer of Xsense. Can I just see a show of hand who knows Xsense? That's only a few of you. That's interesting. Xsense is probably one of the most dominant, well, he uses it a lot, exactly, one of the most sort of widely used conventional motion capture systems. He joined me because we're actually historically known for real-time AI-powered motion capture. So that means a single camera, and we'll just do real-time motion capture. If there's time for that today, I'll actually show you that. But that's the reason he's my co-founder and the CTO. And then we have people like Habib Zagapur of Blade Runner 2049, Chad Wanstreet, Alan McKay of Shogun, who also are in here. Now, they're all extremely focused on previs. The reason I'm mentioning them is not just to drop their names. It is because they actually sit down with us and they craft the features that you're about to see. You'll see custom cameras and branded presets. You will not be able to show you our VCAM solution, which was Haider beautifully, but there's just not enough time for it. But and I won't be able to show you smart tracking either today. But those features are built in. All right, so let's get into it. I'm in the browser. I'm in a Chrome browser, actually. And just like in a cooking show, I've prepared a little demo. And I'm now fingers crossed that it runs at a high frame rate. I don't know until I connect the screen. I'm going to go into the camera track. So I'm just going to play this back. I'm not going to show you how I built this, except once after I've played it. So this is 3D in real time in the browser. Okay. At this point in time, we wouldn't claim that our graphics can compete with the likes of, say, Unity and Unreal Engine, which is, of course, what these gentlemen are focused on. But that's because we don't think it's necessary. For pre-production, not VFX, but for pre-production, for previs, what we think matters is that people can work easily with a system that is hyper accessible. And again, because it's like Google Docs, anybody can jump in here and build a scene together. I'm just going to pause, exit out. Bear with me 1 second. And show you how this was built up. So this is a full scene of 3D. There's the Millennium Falcon back there. There's some characters in there. I'm now going to drop in an asset just to show you that this is something anybody could do. For absolutely no reason whatsoever, I'm going to place an elephant in there. That's just because I had it handy. Now, the point that I would like to make is if somebody else were to join me right now using the URL of this particular file, just, I could share it just like so. I could just send you this URL. You can jump in. If somebody else were logged in, and you can do this with as many people as you want. You can do this with 50 people, 100 people all logged in at the same time via any device. So, excuse me? Share it now. Share it now? Okay. You want to do it now? Well, you have to log in. Okay, sorry about that. But I will definitely try that for the next presentation with a QR code or something. All right. So what the point though is that as I've dropped this asset in, it would drop in everywhere on all your local screens. It is also rendered locally. It's device side. It's not rendered in an expensive way up in the server. In fact, everything you're about to see right now, you can do for free, no credit card down. Okay? Obviously, at some point, you're going to run into limitations. But the point is it's all rendered locally on any device. So it's all real time. I'm not going to have time, I think, to go into the details of how a scene like this is built up. But it's all here on the left-hand side. I want to go directly into cameras and cinematography. Now, how are we doing on time? I think I have another 7 minutes at best. And I'm going to try and power through this in 5, and then hopefully take some questions. So I'm going to turn on visual helpers because that reveals some of the cameras that are in here. I'm going to switch to one of those cameras here. And as you can see, down here I have some choices. I have sensor size, I have crop factor, and I have depth of field. So I'm going to start with sensor size. That list currently, as it's currently developed, comes from Unity. Unity is Unreal Engine's competitor. There's no particular reason we chose the Unity one, except one of our advisors had that list ready, and we just were able to plug in the data. So it's not like this is a better list than anything Unreal would do. But that happens to be sort of the list that Unity offers and as part of their editor. So I'm going to choose, say, the Alexa. I'm going to choose a widescreen format here. It's probably not a good choice given the depth of field that I've applied. So I'm going to turn off the depth of field actually in properties, because that depth of field is a simulation. Now, the cameras and the crop factor that you just saw here, they're meant to be fairly accurate. I'm never going to promise 100% accurate simulations of a real-world camera, but they come pretty close. Depth of field, I would say, is a simulation, right? So that it's okay. It will do the trick for most purposes. I think that's at least for all the people we work with. That's what they tell us, but it will give you a good sense of what works. Now, it's interesting that somebody's in here. Is that right? Can I see a show of hands? Somebody just joined in here. Because what you can see is that there's a blue Barnabas 2K. Somebody just joined in here. So that's great. I love it. So what you can see is that this person has joined, and I can even follow that person, and I can now see what that person is looking at. And then I can reclaim control. There you go. I have no idea who this is, but I love it. All right. So now I think, just in the interest of time, I'm just going to show you very quickly that there is a camera sequencer in here as well. I have already sort of sequenced some of them. You'll see them down here in the timeline. There's a camera track down here. Now you can move the cuts back and forth, and it's really quite straightforward to do. Now the underlying logic is, please don't have an allergic reaction to this. Most people do, but it's, in our case, really easy to do. It's called keyframing. Keyframing is not a great topic. Most people hate it out of the box. In our case, we like to think that we've built something that is a bit easier to use. So let's just say I want to keyframe a camera, or want to animate a camera. I would drag in the lens first. I'll look through it. I'll pilot through it. Here, I'm going to turn off visual helpers again. And let's just say I'm going to pick a different sensor size now. I want to track the Millennium Falcon as it lands. So I'm going to pull back the playhead. So let me just look for better. Bear with me, sorry. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. There's the Millennium Falcon. Let's just say I want to track that Millennium Falcon as it lands. I'm going to hit keyframe here. Now I've created my first manual keyframe, and that is down here. You just see it is camera 11. That's what it's called. Nifty naming, numbering. And the next thing I'll do very quickly is I'll look for some movement here. Actually, I messed around with other keyframes. Just ignore that. So the point I'm going to make here is that I've created the first keyframe for the camera here. And now I'm going to transition the camera to where I want it to be, say, 5 seconds later at this point. So there you go. I'm going to move this as though it was on dolly. And here I am. And now this has automatically keyframed, as you can see, and I can now play that back. And that's how easy it should be for anyone to do. And all of that you can do in real time with as many people as you want. You can have some people focus on lighting, others focus on assets, props, and cameras, and so on and so forth. There's a VCam solution as well, which we're going to publicly release next week, which will hopefully make that sort of that sensation that I think everybody's looking for available through Radical as well. Last thing we're going to do, not cinematography related at all, but I have to do ourselves justice. I hope you understand. I'm going to do real-time motion capture with a single camera right here, this webcam here. And the way that works is you can use any single device, a consumer device, any consumer camera. This one is $40 off of Amazon. And I'm going to go live. I'm going to choose standard full body. It looks like I'm in the right position. Now what happens is that this camera feed is being connected into our AI that runs over the United States, somewhere around Chicago. That always takes about 5 to 10 seconds. So you see here that it's connecting to our AI. And really, just what happens is that this single camera feed is being sent across the pond right now, makes a handshake with our cloud cluster, and when it's ready, which is now, it's going to say start. And the only thing you really need to do, and now I'm going to have to speak up because I'm going to take a step back from the mic, is stand fully in frame and strike a T-pose. And now I'm in. Now I'm animating this guy in real time, and I can even play back the camera track around me while I'm animating. You see that over here? There you go. And that's how easy it is. And you can record that animation data. And by the way, should you insist on using Unreal Engine, which I really do understand, or Blender, we do have live real-time plugins for both Unreal Engine, Maya, Blender, and Unity, so you can stream everything you've just seen directly into those applications. All right, I think that's it. I'm going to call stop on it right now. And I'm going to ask a question of the gentleman here. How would you want anyone who hasn't really taken decisions like this to think about what solution is right for them? Paul, maybe starting with you, when do you think people come to you and you say it makes sense for you to use Unreal Engine and it makes sense for you to work with me?
Well, I mean, you have higher budget films. It's not only for a higher budget, but it needs obviously like it's a learning curve. You can start very small if you want. As I mentioned, it's free, but it needs a little bit of knowledge, right, to use it, and then you can do anything you want. But usually it's like budget related. As a professional, right?
So why is it budget related if you can use it yourself? I think the honest answer is that in most occasions, I think Unreal Engine is not something you're going to learn, between January or February and April when you start shooting. You're just not going to do that. So what you're probably going to do is you're probably going to hire someone like Third Floor, Industrial Light Magic, or Paul, Control Chaos, because that's what he's been doing for a living. And help us think about the kind of budgets where they typically come to you. Or is there something else that typically causes them to call you? Is there maybe the fact that they're heavy on VFX in the first place?
It could be heavy on VFX. You can plan bigger shots. That is a minimum, but you can plan any shot pretty much. As a company, you want obviously bigger films, which they have bigger budgets. But I'm also doing small films with very small budget or no budget, okay, to help out.
So I'm just going to sort of answer this question a little bit myself. You would not want to use Radical if you have a VFX-heavy production and the budget makes sense, or there's enough room in the budget for you to work with Unreal Engine in VFX, because you will likely want to use Unreal Engine and previs if you're also going to use it in post. That makes a ton of sense. You're just going to work all the way through, right? Now, for those people who work in conventional live action, there's not a single synthetic image in there. Let's just assume that for a moment. Then I think you're going to start thinking about other solutions as well. Hopefully Radical, for example, maybe Blender as well. Although I will say this, and maybe Haider, this is a good question for you. Describe to us the learning curve of Blender.
There's a lot of YouTube resource out there.
There you go.
Hell of a lot. So I definitely endorse Blender. I also endorse Radical now.
That's nice of you to say. So I'll maybe go a step further. When we started Radical, we had a lot of kids come to us. They just graduated out of Fortnite and Roblox, and they know 3D because they play games, right? And then they were like, I hear this 3D thing is now achievable. So they came to us and did motion capture with us, and then they asked us, okay, great, I have the motion, what do I do now? Right? And then we realized they've never used 3D before, right? So they download Blender typically, they might download Unreal Engine. And I hope this is understood with all the love and respect that I have for these solutions, but the reality is that anyone who approaches Blender and Unreal Engine with that sort of background will find themselves sitting in a friggin' airplane cockpit where every single light and dial is shrieking at them, right? And saying, pay attention to me, or at least learn what I do. And I suppose a lot of the inspiration for what we're doing at Radical, at least, is a response to people, filmmakers, who have told us, I did not go to film school to learn what that airplane cockpit does, right? That's not why I'm in this. And so hopefully there is, that gives shed some light on why I think we're not the only ones. I think also Unreal Engine has a lot of great plugins, amazing people doing work in this space. Blender has probably one of the most inspiring global communities you will ever find, because it's nonprofit and it's open source. You can find amazing filmmakers working in Blender. Unreal Engine is sort of the big incumbent, I would now call it, because they're so at home in Hollywood productions, essentially. Maybe together with Autodesk, but these are not real-time applications. Full disclosure, we are not an Autodesk company, but our lead investor is Autodesk. And that means, of course, we're very friendly with them. But most of their applications are not real-time applications. Our focus is very much on real-time. I think that's also what I hear from Haider and Paul. Okay, we're actually over time already. I don't see anybody jumping up and shouting at me yet. Okay, well, no, I'm about to die. Okay, all right, is there any burning question that somebody would like to ask? There's something up front. Can I ask that question at least? Is that okay? Because I see 2 questions. I'm just going to, 3, 4. So just one? I'm so sorry, guys. Our fault, we went over time. Who feels like they can speak on behalf of everybody? You were the first one to raise your hand.
I can ask. I've just got a quick question about sorry. I've got a quick question about Radical specifically. I love the idea. I love the concept.
Oh, thank you.
What goes on with the IP? Obviously, it's a free service. You're going on. It's on a streaming thing. You're going across the pond. Is the data protected? Do Radical own any of the intellectual property on what's going on with what you're pushing out to it? Yep. Can you download that stuff? Is it saved on Radical's sites, on their servers? Yep. That sort of thing. That's what I want.
So the quick answer is you own everything. Mm-hmm. We don't use it. There's obviously AI in there, and yes, it's our own AI. We don't train on your data.
Okay.
You own everything, but you give us a license to use it and to display it, which is a very technical point, to be honest. It's more like if you upload something to Google, you're also giving them license to display it back to you. That's honestly as simple as it is.
Cool.
You can download everything on the motion side, but you cannot download the Canvas content today. So Canvas is the 3D editor, sorry. But you will be. Okay, I think I'm really getting shouted at now. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
If you want a card or if you need any questions, or you can write me an email.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks, Haider. Thanks so much for jumping in.